Welcome to another fabulous week with Power Surge. And I am so excited for our guest today. He is one of those men that you are lucky if you get to know. I tell you what, I am lucky. I feel like I can now number myself with the celebrities because he works with celebrities and with other people like that. And he has got a great journey on where he's come from to get to where he's at and some fun stories about some of the people he's worked with. That being said, I'm excited to introduce you to my good friend, Bruce Marin. Bruce, come on in.
Hey, hello. I am honored and privileged, and I send everybody love from a beautiful Las Vegas. So thank you.
Yay, we all love Vegas. Woo!
Love it. Love it. Love it.
I have to tell you too much about me, but you'll like this story because you're from Vegas.
Yes.
I met my husband 13 and a half years ago on the 24th of June at 10 in the morning. And we were married by 2 in the afternoon, and we've been married for 13 and a half years.
Wow. What a story. And that was in Las Vegas.
Yep. Now, we had talked on Skype for 3 months before then.
Yeah, but still, I love that story. We are all going to get together and share a drink or whatever. I love that story. And I have wonderful Las Vegas stories to share with you. But God bless you and your husband. That is a beautiful story.
Isn't that fun? Okay, well, I want to hear how you got into the celebrity speaking and entertainment industry, and what path did you take to get there? Because you are one of the most accomplished people ever, and you had to have a starting place. So start us on your journey.
First of all, I want to tell you, to answer the question, it's my mom. I owe everything to my mom. And you may see on social media every day I post these beautiful tributes to my mom. You know, nothing more precious and priceless than a mother's love. So it's all my mom. But here's just one example of my mom that I think you'll enjoy because it also ties in a celebrity story. Okay. I was fortunate. My mom has suggested to me to go to the UCLA Film School. And I said, Mom, that is a great idea. One of the greatest experiences in my life going to UCLA Film School. When I graduated, again, my mom was there. She said, Bruce, why don't you try to get a job at MGM Studios, the most famous studio in the world, Wizard of Oz and everything else. Well, thanks to my mom, I got a job at MGM immediately. And my job, Karen, was in the Thalberg building at MGM, the most famous building of, all time.
Yeah.
So I'm working in the Thalberg building, 1973. So I'm this young kid out of film school. The president of MGM comes into my office. He says, Bruce, how would you like to have lunch in the commissary with Elvis Presley? I said, oh my God, Elvis is my favorite. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
So the president says, yes, we have a new film. It's called Elvis on Tour. We would like you, Bruce, to handle the publicity with Elvis. So Karen, I felt like I had died and gone to heaven. So long story short, I went to the commissary. I met Elvis Presley. I sat down with Elvis and I said, Elvis, we are really going to get along. Both of us are mama's boys. So he just loved that because, Elvis was known. I knew his whole story. He's a mama's boy like me. So when you ask me, like, sort of, how did I get into the business? There's so many stories I can tell about my mom, but this was a perfect example. My mom recommended UCLA Film School. She recommended MGM. So my first client was Elvis Presley, thanks to my mom.
That is amazing. I'm jealous. I am jealous.
and after working on the PR on Elvis on Tour, I worked with Elvis his entire career. I worked on his films. I worked on his shows here in Vegas at the International. I probably saw 500 of his shows at the International. And for those that are viewing, know his show, he sings the trilogy at the end of his show. I just got chills just thinking about it. So again, I owe everything to him. But here's a story I think you'll love, Karen. So sadly, when Elvis left us too early and went to heaven, Colonel Parker calls me in my office. He says, Bruce, I have an idea. We can distribute Elvis Presley wines. I would like you to handle Elvis Presley wines because you've done such a great job with Elvis. So anyway, we did do the Elvis Wines. I did such a great job with the PR on Elvis Wines. Colonel calls me up. He says, Bruce, I'm sending you a big check. I thank you so much for what you did. So I just thought that was a story you would enjoy. But it
I
all,
love that.
isn't that great, Karen?
That is fabulous. Well,
Yeah.
giving odes to mothers. My mom always gave quotes that I tell people mom quotes all the time. If you were to think of one quote that your mom gave you that really stands out still, what quote would that be?
Well, the one that does stand out, and I use that on social media all the time. She says, Bruce, no matter what you do, I hope that you impact lives. I hope that you impact lives. And
Yeah.
ever since on social media, every day I post impact lives because mom taught that to me. And she says, I don't care whatever you want to do. Wonderful. But I hope no matter what you do in your life that you have a gift and you can impact lives. So that's something. And I'll have another mom story because I think this is a really important one for you and your show that ties into the Celebrity Bureau. After I was at MGM, I actually joined my mom's legendary PR firm. At the time, my mom was one of only two women that had a Hollywood-based PR company, and her company was a general service movie studio. So I left MGM to be with my mom. As much as I loved MGM, I was with my mom. So anyway, one day we were at the studio and mom says to me, Bruce, I heard that Michael Landon is filming at our studio. Maybe you want to go and meet Michael. I said, Mom, that's a great idea. So because all the security guards at the studio, they knew us because, I had an office there. The security guard, Karen, let me onto the set. And when Michael finished doing a scene, I approached him. I was very polite. I gave him my card. I shook hands with him. I said, Mr. Landon, Bonanza was my favorite TV show when I was going to UCLA. If I could have the privilege to meet you and have lunch with you, please accept my invitation. Well, sure enough, a couple weeks later, Michael Landon called me. We had lunch. Again, this is thanks to my mom. So when we were having lunch in the restaurant, and I know you're going to get a kick out of this, Michael says, Bruce, I'm so excited. I'm working on this brand new show. It's called Little House on the Prairie. Isn't that amazing? So that's when I met Michael. So I started with him on Little House on the Prairie. But then how our Speakers Bureau started, again, thanks to my mom and Michael, of course, it was easy getting Michael Landon on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Oh, yeah.
But as soon as I started working with him, I was with Michael at the Johnny Carson show. When he finished his segment and the show was done, Johnny came backstage. He says, guys, to Michael Landon and me, how would you like to come to my home for dinner in Malibu? I'd love to have you guys as my guests. I said, Michael, God, this would be great. So Michael and I drove together to Johnny Carson's beautiful mansion. It's right on the beach in Malibu. But the part of the story that you're going to enjoy, and I think your viewers will, Johnny Carson opens up a Cabernet Sauvignon wine. He toasts me and Michael. He says, Bruce, I've got an idea for you. I think you should start a Celebrity Speakers Bureau. And I said, wow, what an idea. And then Michael Landon says, I want to be your client, because Johnny said, I want to be your first client. So then Michael says, I want to be your client too. This is 50 years ago. And the next day, my phone rings. It was Ed McMahon. Ed McMahon calls, say, hey, I hear you're starting a Celebrity Speakers Bureau. I'd like to be your third client. So, Karen, it's 50 years ago. But in terms of my company, that's how my business started. So I thought you'd get a kick. Me booking celebrities and sports stars and motivational speakers. It started that day with Johnny Carson.
I love that. And you know what I really love about the story? I mean, I love the whole story, but I love that you very humbly went to Michael Landon and handed him a business card, and you weren't afraid to say, let's go to lunch, because people forget that these celebrities and CEOs of companies and things like that they're people too. And
so right. And boy, if I ever had advice for people that are watching you and I now, it would be take that first step. If you have a dream you have to take that first step if you have a dream. And, you know, I was already fortunate. I had worked at MGM and worked with Elvis. I was working with my mom. But Michael truly, but I never missed watching Bonanza every single week.
Yeah.
You know, the first color TV show on NBC. And
Yep. Yep.
so, but you're right. And I appreciate your kind words. Yes, I took that step, and instead of being shy and just watching the scene, I thought this was an opportunity to meet him, and maybe I'd be fortunate to work with him,
Yeah.
because, you know, he was a hero to me. So taking that first step was, you know, look what it did to my life, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, that's amazing. So wow, you started out with three of the best in the industry, and with Elvis, four of the best in the industry.
Yes, Karen.
Uh,
And as a sidebar, thanks to them starting, then my first two sports clients were Jackie Robinson and Muhammad Ali. Imagine that. So in that
oh
very
wow.
first year, and with Ali, Ali loved the fact I was born in Louisville, like he was born in Louisville. So when I met Ali, oh my God, he couldn't get over that I was born in Louisville. And with Jackie Robinson, what he got a kick out of, I went to Ebbets Field in Brooklyn many, many, many times, and I was a lifetime Dodgers fan. So when I met Jackie Robinson, he loved the fact that I had seen him play at Ebbets Field, and, you know, I was such a big fan. But imagine how blessed. So you're right. So I started out with the celebrities, and then I started out with two of the most famous sports stars, you know, of all time. So
Right.
that was exciting. And with Jackie, I mean, he truly, I mean, Ali as well, but Jackie was an idol to me growing up. So the very first paid speakers booking I got for Jackie Robinson was in Los Angeles for Bank of America. And I can't tell you the pride that I felt, because again, this is 50 years ago. 50 years ago, I booked Jackie for Bank of America. So starting my career with somebody like him, you know, it really made me feel so proud.
Did you ever, as a 10-year-old, imagine that you'd be where you are today?
Well, you know, that's an amazing story. And I loved your story
I'm
about,
gonna sneeze.
oh, that's all right. God
Sorry.
bless you.
Oh,
That's all right.
there.
God bless you. But I loved your story about Las Vegas and you and your husband. So the answer is, I have a story that ties into entertainment. Our family moved to Las Vegas in 1956. And at that time, my dad was the general manager of the Flamingo Hotel. But the entertainment story is this: because dad and mom knew everybody in Vegas, they took me to see all the star shows in Vegas. You know, Judy Garland and Ella Fitzgerald and Liberace, Frank Sinatra. But the one that changed my life in entertainment was Sammy Davis Jr.
Uh-huh.
They took me to the Sands Hotel to see Sammy Davis Jr. This was in 1957. Now I'm a young kid. I was 12 years old, and I knew Sammy Davis Jr., but, you know, not a lot. So we were sitting in the front row, and at the end of Sammy's show, he sings Mr. Bojangles. That was his signature song. So I was just knocked out as a 12-year-old kid. I mean, I had never seen an entertainer like Sammy Davis. So luckily, because of my mom and dad, we went backstage to meet Sammy Davis Jr. I shook his hand and I said, Mr. Davis, I now know that I want to work in entertainment. I was 12 years old. But when you mentioned entertainment, that was a changing point for me, that I had never before thought about it. But after seeing Sammy Davis Jr. at the Sands, that convinced me, no matter what, I wanted to work in entertainment.
And what things along the way did you do to kind of help bring that to fruition, right up to the Elvis part? Because your mom encouraged you to go to film school, but there were a lot of things. What did you do along the way when you were 14, 16?
Well, I was always interested in music. And of course, that when I met Elvis, that was great for me. Like when I did move here to Vegas, all of us kids listened to KRAM radio. That was the rock and roll station with Buddy Holly and Elvis Presley and, you know, acts like that. So the music was always a very big influence in my life when we were talking about entertainment. But I also was a big fan of going to films. Like when we lived in Queens, Jerry Lewis Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, films like that as a kid really did impact my life. So I love music and I love films, and those films did have an impact. And again, talking about Vegas, years later, I'm working with Jerry Lewis on his muscular dystrophy telethon here in Vegas, the telethon, you know? So
Yeah.
I say music, TV, and film, those three things were always very big in my life, and it did have a big impact. And since we are mentioning music, one other Elvis story that I think you'll enjoy. I was with Elvis so many times, but many times he said, Bruce, of course I love rock and roll, and everybody knows me for the rock and roll. But he says, I am so proud of my gospel albums because his gospel is my roots. So that was something that Elvis told me that a lot of people maybe haven't heard of it. Of course, his gospel albums are very popular, but to Elvis the man, it meant a lot to him to be able to record the gospel albums.
Yeah. That's fabulous. Well, speaking of music, I understand you celebrated a birthday with I'm a little bit country. Okay.
No. That's
That aged me.
no. Marie Osmond is such a very dear, special client, and it was Marie Osmond's birthday about 1 week ago. But one of my favorite bookings for Marie Osmond was right here in Las Vegas, the Smith Center. And perhaps you're familiar with the Smith Center, but
yeah,
the Smith Center is a newer establishment in Vegas. It's a gorgeous facility. And at the Smith Center, we have the theatrical productions, and they have a little jazz cabaret there. But I booked Marie. There was a gentleman here for many years named Norm Clark, and Norm was the entertainment columnist here in Las Vegas. And I helped book celebrities once a month. He had events at the Smith Center. So I asked Norm, I said, what do you think if we can book Marie Osmond? I think it would be great. So I booked Marie. The Smith Center was packed. It was standing room only. And Marie, I'll tell you and the audience, she has such a great sense of humor. I love Marie, but it was a sit down. In other words, this was not a Marie Osmond concert. It was a Marie and Norm sitting on a stage with all the audience there in the background. And Norm would ask her a lot of questions about her career. But then there was a lot of Q&A with the audience at the end. But one thing, because you were mentioning about you and your husband and your beautiful, marriage and what happened. Many people may not know this story. Marie, when she was very young, got married. Very young. Unfortunately, it was a War of the Roses. It was not a happy marriage. And when it ended, there was so much hostility going on that the lawyers had Marie and the husband sign a pact. You cannot discuss this in public. But the great part of the story, what wound up happening is Marie then married her original husband, and they're together right now in Utah. So out of a War of the Roses story came a beautiful, wonderful thing for Marie. But with Marie, and again, I love her so much. One of the saddest things that ever happened in Marie's life, and you certainly may be aware, her young son committed suicide. And
I did not know that.
It was one of the saddest things in her life. And when that was going on, believe me, we were all there to help support Marie. But anyway, the reason I'm sharing this story, because when I wear my cap as booking entertainment, sometimes the entertainers have requests, not demands, but requests. And Marie said, please, if you can mention a Norm, I would prefer if we don't have to discuss my son and the suicide, because it's such a sad thing for me. Norm absolutely agreed, and he did not. And during the Q&A, it was an hour. It was funny and fun, and it was great. When they opened it up to the audience, wouldn't you know, one person in the audience asked Marie about her son and the suicide, and we all had tears in our eyes, and she did answer it. But you can imagine, we've all have I have two beautiful sons. I can't imagine anything worse than one of my two sons committing suicide. But Marie Osmond, Las Vegas, she and Donnie had a show here in Las Vegas at the Flamingo for 10 years. And I probably was there 100 times for their shows. But she is such a talent, and I'm blessed beyond words to be able to work with Marie. So thank you for mentioning Marie.
Yeah. Well, tell us some of your other fun stories that have led you on your journey and things that have impacted your life and has impacted other lives.
Yeah. Well, one thing that jumped to mind, I love talking with you because nothing is planned. We're talking and it's enjoyable. But one story with my mom, when I started working with my mom at the movie studio, I had mentioned I'm a UCLA Film School grad. So we studied all of the classic films, when I was at UCLA. So fast forward, the very first week that I'm working with my mom, I went into the office. It was a pretty large office. And I went into her office, and seated with her, I saw immediately, I knew that it was Joan Crawford, the Oscar and Academy Award winner. I knew because of, UCLA Film School. I did not know that Joan Crawford was my mom's client because I was new. So anyway, Joan Crawford gets up, gives me the biggest hug, and she says, "Bruce, your mom is the best PR representative I've ever had." And this is an Oscar winner, telling me my mom she's ever had. And then later that day, she and my mom went out shopping. And then Joan actually sent a beautiful letter that I put on Facebook sometimes to my mom. But that was a memory that I'll always remember because it was just so special. And another thing says, we're talking and it's beautiful. When we mentioned about Michael Landon, thanks to Michael, I was able to meet his eldest daughter, Cheryl Landon. And when Michael sadly did go to heaven, Cheryl wrote a beautiful Simon & Schuster book called I Promised My Dad. And I Promised My Dad was a bestseller, was a #1 bestseller. But the part that I really loved is Oprah Winfrey booked Cheryl, and Cheryl and I flew to Chicago to be there with Oprah Winfrey when Cheryl guested on the show. So that was wonderful, wonderful memory. I loved it.
That is just amazing. I'm in awe. I'm sitting here going, wow, I needed you 40 years ago.
Well, we're going to work together. Believe me. I just tell all your people, and I know a lot of people watching, you are an amazing, motivational, inspirational business speaker. I mean, I've been blessed to book all the best. It comes to mind, Dr. Wayne Dyer, early in my career, he did really influence my life. I probably booked Dr. Dyer 50 times. But the great thing with him, when he would go out, he'd really impact the lives of the people. You have that same gift. So I really want to commend you on that. But since I'm mentioning Michael, sadly, we lost him way too young. He was only 57 years old, and sadly, he died of pancreatic cancer. But again, a story that I think you and the viewers might enjoy. I had just recently moved from the Beverly Hills office to here in Las Vegas, and Michael called me on the phone. So I was here in Vegas. I could tell by his voice that something was wrong. I said, "Michael, what is wrong?" He says, "Bruce, I've just been diagnosed by my doctor pancreatic cancer." And he said, "Bruce, I don't want the tabloids to come out with a story. Let's arrange a news conference in Malibu. I want to make the announcement, not the tabloids." So I arranged a conference. We did that. And then the other thing that he told me on the phone, he says, "Bruce, this was one of the saddest things I've ever heard from a client." He says, "Bruce, call Johnny. I need to go on the show one more time. So anyway, I went with Michael to the Johnny Carson show. I was with him. It's all, you can see it on the internet now, his last appearance. And it was happy but bittersweet because he was then announcing to people around the world about his pancreatic cancer. And Karen, literally 3 months from the day that Michael called me, sadly, he went to heaven. That's how quickly pancreatic cancer, as you know, is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was literally 3 months, but 57 years old. But when
He
I
was
talk
just a
about,
baby.
yeah, he was a baby, 57 years old. And I owe so much of my career really to Michael Landon. So it was a shame that he went. But again, a story I think you'll enjoy. His last TV show was Highway to Heaven. And
Yep.
of course,
Remember
it's
that
about
one.
angels. Yeah, it's about angels. So when the show was on, and I loved it, and he was in perfectly good health then, I said to Michael about his eldest daughter Cheryl. He says, "I'm going to nickname Cheryl Angel," and he loved that. And for all this time, when I talk to Cheryl, I don't call her Cheryl; I call her Angel. So
Oh.
it was thanks to Highway to Heaven. So that's kind of a nice story to be able to share.
That is a really nice story. Well, now you don't just celebrate. You yes, you celebrate too. You don't just represent celebrities. You represent other speakers as well. So tell us a little bit about that and what kind of organizations and things that you get them into and represent.
Yes, that's very, very kind of you. Literally 90% of the speakers that we book now are in the business category. So 90% of our speakers are inspirational, motivational speakers like you, just like you. So when we're dealing with the corporate meeting planners, I am there trying to do my best to make a good fit for their event. So when I'm working with a meeting planner, I have a lot of questions. Karen, I'm never a salesperson. It's like, how do you like to book Fran Drescher today? And by the way,
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
some great nanny stories about Fran. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and I'll happily share them. So anyway, when I'm dealing with the corporate meeting planners, it's my job to make a good fit for their event. So I will ask them a lot of questions like, what are the demographics of the group that they have? Do they have a theme for the event? One meeting planner had a theme, we're going to the moon. So I booked Buzz Aldrin, who was on the moon. And
Ah, yeah.
I was a hero there.
I
So
bet.
so I ask all those different questions. What city is your event going to be located in? And after I ask all the questions, then at the very end, I'll ask them what their budget is, because once I know what the budget is, I can then go ahead and make the recommendation. So in the corporate and business area, I love being able to do that. And we work with Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 1000, trade associations. In fact, you want to have a laugh. In our industry, trade associations are huge. There are hundreds of thousands of trade associations. And one, this was funny, it was called the American Pretzel Bakers Association. The pretzel bakers. So anyway, with that group, I did book Steve Garvey, and that was nice. But another association, and this was a celebrity, but I think you will get a kick out of this. There is a big trade association in the insurance company industry called LOMA, LOMA. So I'm on the phone with LOMA. I'm asking all the questions. Another thing I always ask them, toward the end, do they have a wish list? Because if they have a wish list for an event and I can help them, then I'm a hero. So this
Right.
particular group at Loma, they were huge fans of William Shatner, the actor William Shatner.
Yeah.
And they said, can you book William Shatner? I said, I have not booked him before, but I know that I can get to William Shatner. So long story short, I did book William Shatner for a very large amount of money. And I went to Orlando and I was with William Shatner and them. So my job in the celebrity speakers industry is to try to book the right person for the right audience. And when I mentioned Fran Drescher, I was always a big fan of The Nanny. I
Oh,
loved
yeah. Yeah.
the Nanny. So I had a group in Southern California. This was about a year ago. They called me, and the same thing at the end. I said, "Do you have a wish list?" They said, "Oh, we would love to book Fran Drescher. They said, we know that she's a cancer survivor. And this was Pomona Valley Hospital in Pomona. So I said, let me contact Fran. And bottom line, one of the nicest people I have ever worked with, Fran Drescher. And Fran, because she is a cancer survivor, she actually has a nonprofit called Cancer Schmancer. So she did just the most amazing talk for this group. And she was so nice. The group had asked me right before the event, would Fran consider doing a news conference? And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'll be happy to ask Fran. Fran says, I'll be happy to do that, whatever they want. And I'm just telling you, Fran Drescher is one of the neatest people, Karen, I've ever met. But here is an exciting thing. Fran is now the president of Screen Actors Guild, Screen Actors Guild, SAG. Fran
Yes.
instrumental in solving the big strike that was going on for so long with SAG. She was the one that was negotiating, the strike. So I just love Fran Drescher.
That's something I haven't joined yet. I need to figure out. You need to walk me through how to join that. I have been in documentaries. I just haven't done it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come be a client.
No, you will be a client. And one of the things, and you're aware of this, but IMDb, are you familiar? IMDb?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, imdb.com. All of the actors, anybody in the film industry is on IMDb. So it would be a good idea to get you on IMDb. And I do use that sometimes when they want to book a celebrity that I haven't booked before. I will go to IMDb, and they're very, very helpful, in getting me to the right people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope. Yep. We're gonna have to talk after the show.
You're going to be a client. But I just flashed on another thing. The great thing about our Celebrity Bureau, yes, we book inspirational and motivational speakers. We book celebrities and sports stars, but we also book entertainment. And I booked some very, very big names for entertainment here in Vegas. I mean, just to name a few, I booked Celine Dion.
Oh,
I
wow.
was a hero. She was incredible. I booked Mariah Carey. I was the hero there. And also J-Lo. I booked J-Lo. So not everybody is in that category for entertainment. Sometimes, they want local entertainment, but I am sharing with you that we do also book entertainment. So whatever the company wants, I'm there for them. Usually, Karen, what happens, like if it's a 3-day event, the closing night, they'll have entertainment. So
right.
We're happy to do that. So that's a fun thing that we do.
How fun. Well, now if an organization wants to get in touch with you so that you can get them their entertainment and speakers and whatnot, how does a corporation go about getting in touch with you?
That's very sweet of you. The easiest way is my website, which is Bruce Marin CelebritySpeakers.com. Bruce Marin's, that's so nice. Bruce Marin CelebritySpeakers.com. So they can go to my website, but I also, of course, I'm on all the social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, X. I'm on LinkedIn. So people can also reach out to me there as well. That's so nice. That's, of course, that's my website. But people can always contact me, and I welcome anybody. And what I will share as well, when an organization contacts me, not everybody I book is a 6-figure, person like a Fran Drescher, or you name it. So I will book based on their budget. I will find a fit for their budget. So I'm always there to try to help them out, because I've learned, and Karen, I know you'll appreciate this, once you open a door and do a great job for a client, there's nothing better in our industry, or really any industry, than repeat business. And the best thing you can do is be a hero, with that company, and then they will come back to you.
Well, you are a hero, that is for sure. And you've done a lot of amazing things, but I know along the way that you have done amazing things, not just for audiences, but for the people that you book. because there's times when they just maybe needed that audience that you booked them for. And so you don't just make it so that it's good for the corporation or the audience. You make it so that it's good for the speaker too.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, for me, the best thing that I can do is to not only make my client, the corporation or the association happy, but also the client that I book. So I'm always there, to work with them. For example, I don't know if you're a sports fan at all, but we were blessed to work with one of the best sportscasters of all time, Dick Enberg, who had the saying "Oh my," but you name it, Super Bowls, the tennis championships, baseball. Dick did everything, but working with people that are so vibrant and charismatic. And by the way, you are also vibrant and charismatic with that beautiful smile. But
thank you.
I'm dealing with a corporation. They want somebody that'll appear and certainly be charismatic. Obviously, they want good information, but if the speaker is not charismatic, believe me, along the way, I've met people that are brilliant and intelligent, but don't put them on a podium speaking, because they're not good at connecting, with the audiences. And sometimes, because we're talking, booking speakers, sharing with you, because I know you know that, but maybe some of the audience is interesting to hear this. When a speaker is out there, what are some of the things that a speaker can do? Because, for example, if some people contact me and they're interested in being a speaker, some of the things that I will share with them, number one, if you can make the audience laugh at the beginning, not a corny joke like a horse walks into the bar, but if you can make the audience laugh at the beginning, right, you already have them in the palm of your hand. If you can touch the heart of the audience early, then you really got them in the palm of your hand. And if you can interact with the audiences, this is something that's really important to me. If I go way back to the beginning of my career, most of the speakers stood behind a podium the whole time, and that was it, just talking, a talking head behind a podium. Now I encourage, and now all the good speakers do this, interact with that audience, come out there, and interact and get the audience involved. So, those are a few small things, that I do share with them. And then I also share whatever you develop as your theme in a positive way throughout your talk. Mention that theme because it'll stick with them and they'll have something to take out with them at the, at the end. So I love working with all speakers, but I love working with new speakers because I'm able to help them develop so that, they'll really become really famous,
Yeah. Well, and I like what you said about them getting in and engaging the audience, working with the audience. The great speakers and celebrities even that I've seen actually walk down into the audience. So, in fact, Donnie and Marie, I've been to their show a couple of times.
Oh, you're so right.
Matt, they just come right down into the audience and talk to people and sing to them and have a good time with them. And that makes it so much more memorable than if they had just stood on stage the whole time, even though they were fabulous on stage.
Yeah. And you as a speaker, which I know, when you interact with the audience, then you really connect with them and you get them to be, asking questions. And so interactive, that's a really important word that I like in the speaking industry, because all of the good speakers are interactive. Even going way back with Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's one of the best of all time. He was wonderful at being interactive, and that is the gift as a speaker. When you can be interactive, you really connect with that audience. And
Dyer and Stephen Covey and even Tony Robbins.
Oh, no, absolutely. And one going way back, and don't worry if you don't know this name. This is before Dr. Dyer, is Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor is...
Honey, I know those people. I know Jim Rohn. I know Bob Proctor.
No, I love that. I love it. Your beautiful smile. I love that. But Bob Proctor, again, early in my career, he, if I listed some people that really influenced me in the speaking area, it would be Bob Proctor, because he taught me, even when it comes to affirmations. He was the one years ago, this probably 45 years ago. He says, Bruce, when I booked him, I learned that. But before I even booked him, he says, Bruce, doing affirmations is really important. You can do affirmations about money. You can do affirmations about your health, about love, business. But I've been doing affirmations for years every day, thanks to Bob Proctor. But yeah, he is one of the legends. So working with him, and he was from Canada, so I would always get a kick out of this. He says, "Let me tell you a boot." Instead of bout, it would be, "Let me tell you a boot," because he was from Canada. But
And
what
Shuri.
a great speaker! One of the best. He was so nice. When I first met him, he sent me all the videos and audio so that I really could learn about him and what he does. So yeah, I love that. It was really so special.
Oh, that is fun. Well, you got to see a lot of people change lives. What are some of the moments that impacted your heart and your life personally with some of these events that you've gone to and people that you've worked with?
Well, with my mom, and when I said, well, that's funny, I sound like Ronald Reagan. Well. Yeah, well. And by the way, I booked every past president, starting with Ronald Reagan, right on down the line. Booking President Reagan was such a pleasure. One of the nicest people that I have ever met. So anyway, I loved Ronald Reagan. But if I go early into my childhood, and these are things that help, build up your life. When we did live in New York, my mom always made it a point to take me to Madison Square Garden to see Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus, to see the rodeo. My mom, when I was in New York, got me into Little League. She knew I love baseball. But again, these are things that my mom did for me. She could have been complacent and not, but this helps, form your life. But then when we moved here to Vegas, because, I'm in Las Vegas right now, my favorite TV show when I lived in New York was Lassie. I just loved Lassie, the collie. So when we moved right here in Las Vegas, I said, oh, Mom, could we get a collie? It would be so wonderful if we could get a collie. So thanks to my mom, we got a collie, thanks to my mom. And the collie was named Bo. But then years later, the real Lassie, I don't know if I ever sent a picture of me with Lassie, but I got to go to the Lassie Ranch where the real Lassie was at to meet Lassie. And I was there with the trainer, the famous trainer, Rudd Weatherwax. So I have a lot of photos with Lassie. So I asked Rudd, the trainer, I said, can I book Lassie for personal appearances? I think shopping malls and places like that. He said, Bruce, yeah, of course. So I wound up booking Lassie probably about 7 different appearances. And of course, the collie was my favorite dog. So imagine me going out with the real Lassie. It was what an experience.
How fun.
Yeah. So in answer to your question, there were a lot of things when I was younger where my mom did help influence my life. That dog, that I can't tell you the joy that Bo, our collie, meant, because when we moved to Sherman Oaks, Karen, then we got a female collie named Bambi, and so many litters of the collies, So again, these were things that my mom did that really helped influence me. And one other thing, and this is very sweet, when I was getting ready for my senior year at Grant High School, my mom was the one. She said, Bruce, you know what? I don't think it's too early now. She said, I know you want to go to UCLA. Let's send in, applications to get into UCLA. And sure enough, at my high school, I was the first person that got admitted to UCLA. So you talk about influencing your life, even when I was young. I mean, just think what UCLA, did for me in my life,
That reminds me of a quote from my mom. Because your mom is like, let's do it now. Well, my mom would say, only put off for tomorrow what you're willing to die having left undone.
I love it. No, absolutely love that. And I just flashed, we're kind of freestyling, which is great. But I just flashed because we were talking about past presidents. In Nevada here, I booked President Ford here in Nevada. And President Ford was wonderful. In fact, I have a great picture of me with President Ford at this event. But this is what you would enjoy, and the viewers as well. When he was done with his talk, he's escorted by a ton of security guards. The security people are everywhere. So anyway, he finishes his talk. He gets a standing ovation. There were 5,000 people there. They just absolutely loved him. And the security force storm onto the stage, and they're ready to whisk him off into the limousine, into the sunset.
Yeah.
President Ford holds his hand up. He says, "Hey guys, I think these nice people have some questions for me." He stayed for 45 minutes answering questions. So the Secret Service people were put to the side. He could have easily just left. Hey, I made my money, I'm off.
Yep, I'm
off. He was so nice, and he stayed for the 45 minutes, which was a beautiful thing. So he made me a hero because, the meeting planner says, "Bruce, I never expected that President Ford would stay with our audience and answer questions." So not only was President Ford great, but I was made to be a hero.
Everybody likes to be a hero. And I think that's one of the things with inspirational speakers and the celebrities as well, is they remind people of things that they have done or they can do so they can be a hero.
You are so right. And it's funny, I noticed in the picture that I see to screen right to my right, there's a picture of Merv Griffin up there with me, legendary Merv Griffin, who of course wound up being a billionaire. But Merv was one of the nicest people that I've ever met in my life. Now, I did book Merv for appearances and did great there. But the picture there with me and Merv was on a helicopter. And what happened was Merv once in a while would do a live remote of his Merv Griffin show. But instead of the studio, he'd do a live remote. He called me. He says, "Bruce, we're going to do a show at Ojai in the Oaks, which is a very beautiful, it's one of the nicest spas to this day, one of the nicest spas in the world."